Hey, we're live.
All right.
Jonathan, you going to be able to play that new paddle you got this week?
I don't know. It's sitting in my bag, and I'm not sure what to do with it.
Things are happening fast in the world of pickleball, everyone, and welcome. Let's get into this. This is our premiere episode of Pickleball Today, the pod, and let's get into it right now. I kind of dig this. Okay, well, enough of the music, but just have to do a little bit just for fun. Hey, everybody, welcome to Pickleball Today, the pod. And I did a little preview episode last week, but today is the first official, our premiere episode, and I am with my partner in crime, Jonathan Tin. How you doing, Jonathan?
I'm doing well, Patrick. I know we met through Pickleball Studios Discord. I had to track you down. I saw you were
Yep,
doing this the Canadian coverage, and
yep,
I'm
yep.
actually sitting in One Health Club right now, where you did some of your original interviews and some of your interviews with Ian from TSS and a couple other CNPL folks. So
Yep.
yeah, excited to jump
Last
into
year.
this.
Yeah, cool, cool. Well, and we'll be there next weekend too. So, let's tell people a little bit because it is our premiere episode. What we're doing here, folks. Those of you who know me already from Pickleball Today, the website. I've kind of developed a passion for pickleball over the last year. Relatively new, in a year, but I've done a lot in that, and I'll talk more about uh, a little intro to me, and Jonathan will give an intro in a little bit. But what we've decided to do is expand that with a weekly podcast. And to be honest, this is a Friday that we're recording on this, and we were going to be doing it on Monday or Tuesday next week. But there was so much news happened this week that he said, let's do an emergency pod. And I said, well, maybe we got to do our first pod before we do an emergency one. And I mean, I just thought it was hilarious, but that's how fast things are going in the pickleball world. But anyway, what we covered in our podcast is everything to do with pickleball from a Canadian perspective. That meaning Canadian players, Canadian tournaments, Canadian clubs. I mean, Canadian players and any Canadian player buys gear, so we'll cover some gear when there's something worthwhile. Canadian players in both Canada and the U.S. We have two leagues in Canada, the CNPL, which is on next weekend. Jonathan's involved with the CPA Pro Tour. We'll talk about that later. And but effectively, if it's pickleball and it's Canadian, we're all over it, or going to be all over it. I've been a little
Right.
slack on the website lately because I was away, and frankly, we'll be putting a lot more effort into the podcasts and yet another update, another article or two on the website going forward now too. It's nice to have a partner working with me on it. So
Yeah.
before we go further, Jonathan, why don't you tell the folks a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, I'll echo that it's good to have a partner, but like you, this is a passion project for me. I did my undergrad in engineering, where you spent your early years as well as at University of Waterloo in mechanical engineering. After that, kind of did some 5 years at Accenture and technology consulting. Really wanted to have like I over time I wanted maybe a little bit more a seat at the table. I was a big picture guy all the time. I'm always so I decided to go back to business school. I went to Cornell to do my MBA, and then I graduated into COVID and was in Austin at the time, hotbed for pickleball, but didn't play pickleball at all. I really picked up pickleball when I moved back. A relationship kind of fell through after my MBA and moved back into my parents' place in Canada here, up in Toronto, and was kind of just sitting at home depressed, if you will. And my cousin, Amy Greger out in Seattle, said hasn't stopped talking about pickleball since she retired. She retired pretty. She retired in her 50s. She was an SAP consultant, and she just, whenever it comes up, she always talks about pickleball. So I said, sure, I'll go with my parents to go play pickleball. Classic story of getting schooled by the 60, 70, 80 year olds. I I didn't. For the life of me, I didn't realize that I'd have like friends like you yourself, Patrick. I'd have more friends that are like my parents or older than my parents than in terms of from pickleball, right? And
Yeah,
so I've got a lot of pickleball moms, pickleball dads, and or pickleball grandparents, if you will. And that's what really
yeah.
excites me about the sport is the inclusivity of it, the low barrier to entry. You can be playing with an 80-year-old to an 8-year-old, right? And you're still having fun out there. So hoping for this podcast to really bring some of that business perspective that I have into analyzing what's going on in business school. I did run a podcast as well. It was called Present Value. We interviewed people like Reggie Fils-Aimé or Irene Rosenfeld. So love the podcast idea. So happy to contribute this time on
Oh,
the
that's
other
great.
side as a host.
That's great. Yeah, so I mean, we come at different ends of the spectrum. I'm at a very much later point in life. I probably could be your grandfather or your father at least, but that means we're also covering a wide demographic here when we
Mhm.
talk about this because you're a very young guy. I'm getting to be an old guy, or maybe I am an old guy. I just don't want to admit it yet. Um, and but that's what pickleball is. The sport, even when I started a year ago, was a quote older person sport than it is today. I listened to some duper stats, and they are growing. Duper being a kind of a statistic tracking ranking platform, they're growing by 20% a month. But they're saying even that group of people are getting younger month over
Mm,
month over month to the point
mhm,
there where their average age about a year ago was about 55. Now it's about 40. I saw it with, and I didn't tell my background. Maybe I'll do that first, and then tell you where I noticed the change. I started a year ago playing pickleball. My background before was in the software industry for many, many years. Then started my own business. I'm not going to get into all my old work stuff. It's kind of not relevant, but ran sales for some big software companies, and then started my own business 15 years ago when I was at a point in my life that I just wanted to march to my own drummer and do my own thing at the pace that I felt like. I did that. Life was good. A few years ago, unfortunately, my wife came down with Alzheimer's and started to really show symptoms. I'm not going to dwell on it, but effectively, as of a year ago, she became fully hospitalized. And it's just a terrible thing to go through. And we're going to do a little tribute for Alzheimer's or a fundraiser at some point here, too.
mm,
It's
mhm,
a terrible thing to go through, but it also not only is terrible for that person when they even know it, they don't maybe know it at certain points, like she's at that stage now, and she's incredibly well cared for now. But it's also hard on the other person because my wife and I've been married a long time. She was my life partner for a long time. And at the end of it, all of a sudden, for the first time in my life, I'm living by myself at home,
mm,
and so much of our life was as couples,
mhm,
and so much, and that was it. And all of a sudden, I'm at least not out in public as a couple, but we are still a couple, and I visit a number of times a week. I had to come up with something else to do and something that got me excited to give me a bit more spring in my step. I found
mhm,
pickleball. I went in and played one day. It didn't go great day one, but it did go great on day two as far as I got hooked. It took 2 days, and it just made me feel like a kid again. It was a slightly older crowd, and I just loved it. Loved it. Within a couple months, though, of getting hooked, the city here, I live in Cambridge, Ontario, was closing down courts. And that was at the same time that the sport was growing. And they have to close them down in the summer because they don't have a lot of outdoor courts yet, but they use the indoor ones for playgrounds, which is a very important thing for young kids during the summer. So they closed down a bunch of the courts for playgrounds, and I'm thinking, what are we going to do? I've just got addicted, and all of a sudden, there's hardly any place to play. So I started up Cambridge Pickleball Club myself, and that club grew to about 200. people and still going strong and having, we play in some rented facilities. Secondary to that, my background being a web designer, which is what I've done the last few years, I decided to come up with Pickleball Today, what we're here doing. And it basically, I didn't see a single news site in Canada specific to
Mm-hmm.
pickleball. I had Canada Pickleball or Pickleball Canada, but no dedicated news site to it. And so Pickleball Canada puts out stuff about their clubs, their tournaments, but not anybody else's. And so we decided to do it, and it really went well. Finally, we also ran what was called Canada's Best Pickleball Club last year, to which went extremely well. It was a great idea, and we're going to do it again this year. So we'll talk about that a little bit more going forward as our plans finalize. So let's get to today's episode. That's the background. That's my background and
Yeah.
yours. What's going
All
on
right.
right now?
Gen three. Gen three.
Gen 3 paddles. Holy gee. This is a bit of a mess. And
So yeah.
I'll just let me bring people up to speed what's going on in the week, and then I want to hear from you because you've got one of these paddles.
Yeah.
So Gen 3 paddle tends to be one that has it might be thermoformed, it might not be, but it's got some new, cushioning or something inside it that paddles never had before this year. And those paddles, so far, there's a couple of them out on the market, but there are going to be more. The biggest name being Eula. And that Gen 3 paddle had a couple issues. The biggest one, though, is that it hits really hard. And like a lot of people love it, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's nice if you got one. It's not too nice if you're on the other side and are playing against somebody who's not very accurate, right? You could really get hit
Yeah.
hard. I saw one post that said it was the ball was popping off at 30% faster than the
Mm-hmm.
next fastest paddle, which is already
Mm-hmm.
still fast.
Yeah.
So I don't
Well,
know.
I'll,
I
I'll
tried
just
one the
yeah.
other day. 30% seemed like a lot to me. I tried one the other day just for fun that one of the members at my club was using, and I didn't know, but I didn't feel it that much harder. But I also wasn't. I was just we're just you know we weren't playing a game or anything like that, so I don't know for sure. But all the stats say a lot harder. So what do you think?
Yeah, no, it's as part of like the work that I was doing with CPA. I've kind of removed myself from, or I'm kind of dedicated more into, just as a disclaimer, I'm like not as involved day to day with the CPA. Still kind of want to see them succeed, but as part of my work there, I had access to the alpha paddles. So I've hit quite a few of those, the 14 millimeters, and then hit the majority of the Gen 3s. And yeah, it was completely different. I think like the first time I hit it, the pop off of the paddle, I guess my it's kind of like almost like a suspended core type. If you look at their schematics of the paddle, but yeah, it's the counters that you see off of the balls were just insane. And I'll say like just off or I had dinner with Colin, and I won't disclose everything he said, but I'll say that he said there's a reason why I'm wearing eye protection at the moment, right? Like that's, and Colin has
This is
some of the
Colin
best.
Johns.
This is Colin, and yeah, and Colin has some of the best hands in the game, right? So if
Yeah,
he's worried about getting hit in the face, like there has to be there's if you look at that was racquetball's demise, right? That was always kind of like the case study, if you will, for pickleball is that
yeah,
racquetball got too fast. And yeah, people just couldn't keep up. And
yeah.
we're kind of at an inflection point right now, I think. So I joke with, I know like me, I just like I finished my MBA in 2020. Thomas Shields of the Dink finished his MBA this year. Caitlin Kerr, also of like pickleball chick, finished her MBA this year as well. And I kind of messaged him on the side. I'm like, we're in 10 years we're going to be reading HBS, like Harvard Business School cases on the stuff that's going on right now, because like this is completely wild what's happening.
Yeah, it is. It is. I mean, the market is growing. We're I think the third pickleball podcast in Canada. And I listen to the other two. I love them.
Mm,
There's a number of other podcasts I listen to in the U.S.
mm.
Building pickleball, I know, is one that you're interested in, that where they talk about the business of pickleball. We'll be
Oh,
doing
okay.
that.
Yeah,
Uh,
I miss the NML guys. I know I've kind of messaged some of them. The two lawyers
yeah.
out of in the West Coast. They're now the
Oh,
GMs of
yeah.
the New York
Yeah.
Hustlers. I miss their podcast because they were very
Well,
in depth.
yeah, there are a few that I really like. I do like Jimmy Miller and Tyler Loon.
Mm,
Jimmy's just a, a character, and
yeah.
Tyler's a solid player. Um,
Yeah.
Pickleball Studio does a lot. They do a lot more on paddles than I would do,
Yeah.
and a lot more, scientific. There's another one called Pickleball Effects I like too. But anyway, we're going to
Yeah.
do a little bit of all of that, but with a total focus on what's going on in Canada and gear available to Canada. A lot of these paddles that we see podcasted about, um, they don't even ship to Canada,
Mm.
and
That's
it's so
yeah.
tricky, right?
Yeah,
So
because
so we'll
I was gonna say I was like before my relationship with Yola, or I was a big Vatic Pro guy. I loved
yeah.
I had the V7, I had the Flash, I had the Prism. I think I got the V7 a used one, so I remember messaging Daryl a bunch, and but yeah, like I would in my mind I was like, oh, maybe I would be a rep, but to your point, it's like it's kind of hard up in Canada to
It is.
establish
It
that.
is. It and even so, unless you want to open up a retail operation,
Yeah,
you're
there's not
limited.
really much into it for me
No, I'm
either,
not.
right? Like,
I'm not into it neither. I don't
yeah,
want to do that. But I do. I mean, people are buying paddles like crazy, and
yeah.
I've sold paddles with an affiliate code. One the company that I've sold paddles for, I can't sell. By the way, I have a sponsorship with Selkirk, but in Canadians can't generally. Canadian advocates cannot sell
Hmm.
unless they open up a retail store, and I'm not going to do that at this point in
Yeah.
my life. But but I do sell a brand called 60, which has been incredibly popular, and just because it was a revenue stream to support what I'm doing with pickleball today up until now. Um, and even that, though, I'm independent. I when you have a news site, you can't tie in specifically to only one company. Otherwise,
Hmm.
you're not a news site. You're an agent, right?
Yeah, yeah,
So, so there's lots of good brands, lots of good paddles. But right now,
yeah,
this Gen 3 is an issue. You mentioned
yeah.
Vatic
Well,
Pro. They even had one. What was the model they just
the
were
Oni,
launching?
the Oni.
Oni. Yeah.
Yeah.
So the Oni, and by the way, and there have been things about the Eula paddle where there's been core crushing even in the first couple days, which is has been damaging paddles. Now that's one
Yeah.
video or two. I don't know how real it is or not,
Yeah.
but
No,
core crushing's
it
happened with
is.
others, right?
It is. Well, that's the thing is like these paddles are in Canada. They're reaching $400 Canadian. They're reaching like
That's a lot
250
of
or whatever. It's a lot of money, and like for
yeah,
me, I'm a big Porsche guy. Like I don't mind paying money if I'm getting quality, right? But
yeah,
in
yeah.
the paddle market, you're paying money to get I don't know subpar like if this were to happen in tennis like I've in tennis rackets it's Yonex, right? Yonex is kind of like the gold standard
Yeah,
of like build quality and stuff, but like Gearbox used to be that in pickleball, but again they're also they fumbled in their um and there's so like there's no real brand that's really like maybe Selkirk with their made in the US, but again they kind of fell behind in the thermoform game. I don't really
yeah,
see a strong front runner in terms of quality. Like, yeah, in my mind, like if I wasn't associated, if I didn't get my Yola paddles for free, I would have a hard time justifying it in my head because
yeah,
I'm like
yeah,
the grits all over the place. Handle sizes are all over the place.
yeah, yeah,
What am I paying for at this point? You know?
yeah, yeah. Well, and yeah, you don't want to spend $400 on a paddle that is broken in a month. we realize grit on all paddles will wear, and it's all subjective to how much you play with it. I play with a lot of different ones, so I've only had one paddle that I would say wore out, but it's
Mm,
one that I've had for a full year, and I played a lot with for the first couple months, like daily.
yeah.
But even you mentioned Vatic Pro, they have that Oni paddle. I actually they're not as expensive, certainly not as expensive as the Eula, but the Eula Gen 3, but it is a Gen 3 thing with kind of foam strips running up through it, three or
Yeah,
four
yeah.
of them. And that had crushing issues.
Yeah, yeah,
I'd
Chris.
ordered one. I actually
Oh,
ordered
oh,
one,
really? Yeah.
and it hadn't shipped yet. And then I
Uh-huh.
saw the video that Pickleball Studio put out where the thing got destroyed in just um, one or two play sessions. So I
Yeah.
decided, as much as I wanted to get my hands on it and try it, I just canceled my order and said I'll get back once you guys figure it out.
Yeah.
So for me, I decided to, I'll just wait on Gen 3 until this whole issue gets sorted. I've got
Hmm.
enough paddles anyway. I don't tend to not need a lot more power the
Yeah.
way I play. I don't have a ton, but I'm trying to work on accuracy more than power at this point.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Placement over power.
that's about it. Um, so that's going to be important. I just want to talk about what's coming up, and then I want to get back to paddles one more time because it's a major controversy this week. But first of all, what's coming up next week is the Canadian National Pickleball League starts. Now they've had their qualifiers and drafts and all this kind of thing. For those that don't know about it, that's a Major League Pickleball style
Hmm.
uh, tournament or event
Yep.
that goes on in Canada in multiple locations. So they have team owners and teams, and they've drafted teams. I can't remember off the top of my head if there's 4 or 6 players on a team this year.
There are
Uh,
that was the big change this year that they're moving from 4 to 6. So
that's
now there's a
yeah,
lot of more local. There's a lot of more local pros being represented, right? I think if you heard a little bit of like the business behind MLP, right? Being able to, I think it was a Sportico article or Sportico podcast that I listened to of kind of like having that place or like being able to establish a team, right? You kind of need that place. You need a
yeah,
connection to a certain demographic, or like, and so I think expanding it beyond just 4 people to 6 people, right? I even look at One Health. Both the 2 pros here are now signed on a team. I'm not saying that they couldn't make it in the 4-person model, but 6-person just
yeah.
opens it up to a lot more bigger demographic.
I know last year they had like some standby players regionally
Yeah,
that would fill
they were
in
kind of
on
like
any team.
yeah,
Yeah, I can't
yeah. So
remember what
then
they called it. I
yeah, like a
interviewed a
floater or
couple of
something.
them. Yeah, we had some fun interviews
Yeah.
with some, but Steve Bosick was one. What he's a
Oh,
character.
okay. Yeah, yeah. Yeah.
Anyway, CNPL starts next weekend. I'll be there
Yeah.
for the weekend. I will be doing a lot of interviews basically
Nice.
there and looking forward to it. We partnered with them and going, for this year again, like we did last year, and should have a fun time interviewing. I think you're away next weekend or something. Is that
I'm
right?
doing a bike ride. I'm doing a bike ride at the Jack.org. It's a youth mental health charity.
Okay.
So that's
Okay.
going to be on Saturday. I've and this is probably my 4th or 5th time doing that, so I'm really looking forward to that. But
Good for
I
you.
will. I'll probably be showing up on Sunday. Hopefully,
Okay,
I'll make
good.
it
We'll
up.
do
Yeah.
we'll do some stuff together. We'll see you
Yeah.
there. A little bit. Then again, we're bouncing around a little bit, but a kind of really crazy thing happened last weekend. That was Major League Pickleball, so CNPL, the equivalent in the U.S.
Mm.
And a player got tested. Well, paddles all get tested in
Mm.
PPA and in
Yeah. Yeah.
CNPL, and every
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
they don't want any player to have some kind of crazy advantage. Well, one of the paddles, and the Major League Pickleball put out an announcement about it. One of the paddles was tested for having a quote foreign substance on the paddle.
Mm.
So
Mm.
I don't know if you've heard about this. And
No,
uh,
no, I know. Yeah,
okay,
you mentioned it briefly, but I haven't.
yeah.
No,
So I'm gonna so far, the guy's innocent until proven guilty, and I haven't had any more detail about it. But this is a guy who's been winning a lot by the name of Andre Descu,
Oh,
and he's
okay.
been
Oh, and
doing
he's
very
using the
well.
new. Actually, I
Yeah.
guess going back to quality control, he's using the new Proton or
Yeah, he
something.
is. Yeah.
Yeah.
So the issue is, it's kind of a funny, the rumors about it is it's Andre Descu. The other rumor about it is it was pine tar or something like pine tar
Mm.
on the paddle. Now, I
Mm.
don't know what pine tar would do on a paddle other than make the ball a mess and sticky. And I don't
Yeah.
know how you could get away with that.
Yeah.
But there's also statements that maybe because they're playing last weekend, I can't remember where it was last weekend. Arizona? No.
Mm.
Atlanta? No,
Oh
Atlanta.
yeah, that Atlanta.
Um,
Yeah, yeah. Because they had an MLB
out in the
event too.
hot
Yeah.
sun, if the paddle's sitting in the hot sun, there's something funny about the proton paddle. It's not a carbon fiber neither, but it's got a different kind of outer layer in
Yeah.
that maybe it emits this substance.
Oh, it just seeps out from the
Yeah,
glue maybe or something. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. It just
yeah.
goes back
If
to.
it's sitting in the heat, possibly
Yeah.
that is. So
And yeah.
Andre, if they found he put stuff on the paddle, and I hope he didn't,
Mm.
he probably could suffer a suspension or something like that. That's a
Yeah.
possibility, right?
But
If
this is like doping and like
Yeah,
I'm a big cyclist, so like like the Lance Armstrong
yeah.
days and stuff. It's
Oh
like
yeah, oh me too.
uh
I watch the Tour
yeah.
de France every year.
Oh, nice.
Um,
Actually, oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Because there's a lot of ties. Like I know in Waterloo, like Jim Balsillie is a big cyclist, and all those
yeah,
folks.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So it's a kind of a it could be an incredibly controversial issue
Well, I
if
think it
they
goes back
decide to
to
put
yeah.
it on, right?
I'm I'm with like kind of like Ben John's take of like we should just be testing exit velocity and kind of let them do what they want. Like you're never going to be able to put parameters around the construction of the core or like or the deflection. It's such a imperfect science there, but if like exit
Yeah.
velocity is very very objective in my
So
opinion.
the US APA is got new testing lined up. I don't know if they obviously decided the fault in that one, but they are doing exit velocity testing
Oh,
coming
really?
up.
Okay.
Yeah, and there's what's the date today? There's a meeting all about it, I think on the 20th. So that's probably what, Monday? Um,
Yeah, that's a
so
whole. Yeah,
they'll
it's such
probably
a
be
it's been such a crazy week. I'm looking forward to
Yeah,
this
yeah.
weekend.
That's kind of why we're doing this a little early. I mean, it's
Yeah,
just been nuts. So that's coming up, and we'll see what happens, right?
yeah.
Again, there's a lot of money involved in this kind of stuff. Like the Eula paddle, I saw a post that in the first few days they sold like 83,000 of them. So think of that times
Oh yeah,
300 and some odd bucks US. You
yeah,
can do the math on that more faster than I can probably, but
yeah.
that's a lot of money, right?
Well,
And
but
now
then
it's
and
been
then
around.
I saw on Pickleball Studios Discord that some people were saying like some people were wanting their money back, right? Like going back to
Oh, yeah,
your initial question of can I play with it, right? If you're going into a
yeah,
tournament this weekend or APP New York coming up,
yeah,
can you play with the
yeah,
Yola paddle? I don't. It sounds like
yeah,
you can't in the U.S. at least
yeah.
on the amateur
Well,
circuit.
in a USAPA event, you can't.
Yeah,
The PPA came out with something, and the PPA is really breaking away from
yeah,
USAPA.
yeah,
So they came up saying, well, we're not going to change our paddle standards in the middle of a tournament.
yeah,
So
yeah,
they're allowing that paddle all this
yeah,
weekend in
yeah.
Atlanta, but they
They're
haven't
kind of.
said whether they'll allow it going forward. And
Well, I
again,
think there's a yeah,
Eula's a big sponsor. So as
yeah, yeah,
so as
and
is Selkirk, as is 60.
yeah,
So
and
you got we all just sit back and see what's going to happen. But
mm,
unfortunately, yeah, the PPA is going a different route. There's a
mm,
bit of a war on that they're trying to kind of monopolize the whole pickleball industry, and now there's another group that is even including rating systems and
yeah,
retailer and all that, and then the APP USAPA. They have a different retailer that they're connected with, and obviously the USAPA has a, they're the guys who did create the rules. Here in Canada, I think we're playing nicer. Just it's the way we are, right? And
I could, yeah. I don't know. I might,
well,
based on
not
my
necessarily with what the
my.
paddle choice is,
Yeah, yeah.
but Pickleball Canada seems to defer to
Yes.
the USAPA for what's legal. If you look
Yes.
on Pickleball Canada's
Oh yeah,
website
yeah.
and click on what are my legal paddles, they take you to the USAPA.
Yeah, yeah.
So they
We don't have the infrastructure or the
right,
the
right,
power to really
right,
do
right,
anything.
right, right. So uh, so they're probably staying out of it, or maybe they will put out a statement as well. There's a lot of tournaments coming up. There's some going on this weekend,
Hmm.
and
Yes,
I
yeah, I guess
expect
it's well, at a tournament
it's a
I've
big
never
enough
actually.
issue that they may want to explicitly address it as well, right?
That's
That's
true. That's true.
right, right.
I think I did see a LinkedIn post looking for legal help on the Pickleball Canada Council. I would not want to be part of it. I saw this stuff that I've talked to the Peter, the former president, and the stuff that he's gone through with the.
Yeah.
I, I don't want to
Well,
touch that with
there's
a 10-foot pole.
politics.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean there's politics in those organizations. It's tricky. You got to appreciate what people do when they're volunteering, even when they're volunteering for a local club.
Oh
As
yeah.
I set
Yeah.
up Cambridge Pickleball Club, I knew how much work it was, and I pretty
Yeah.
much was doing it all for the first at least 3 months. Then I started only doing about half of it. And then after 6 months, I said, okay, guys, we're all here. You guys take care of that from now on.
Yeah.
It's a legacy that I've left for the town and for the people here, but I don't
Yeah.
manage it now. I'm a member like anybody else because but labor, same would be if you were with Pickleball Ontario, Alberta, BC, or
Oh
wherever.
yeah.
A lot of
Well,
work
yeah,
and or
maybe I'll.
Pickleball Canada.
Yeah, well, actually, Pickleball Ontario in particular, just because we're based here, but even I think they've kind of like marched to their own little uh, horn or tune, if you will, because they're listing their tournaments on Swish, right? And they're which is a
Yeah.
site that like nobody uses, and then they're using Duper, which isn't typically not used in Canada. So like their tournament series just has no attendees. Like there's nobody signing up for any of them.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, I saw stuff about them. Like one was canceled.
Yeah,
There's one in Ottawa, I think, a regional that was canceled. But I haven't followed it too closely recently, just too busy with other things.
yeah.
Um, Duper, by the way, though, is making inroads, and even my own club now is adopting Duper. Not the Cambridge Pickleball Club, but the private club that I'm a member
Mm-hmm.
of, which is
Mm-hmm.
called
Nice.
Court in
Oh
Kitchener,
yeah, yeah.
and they're adopting Duper as a standard, and they're having some Duper events and things like that.
Okay. Yeah, with
But
the.
and
I
Duper
was,
says again they're growing at 20% per month, even in the U.S. and in Canada. Just a podcast I heard this morning. So it's
yeah.
just, folks, the stuff changes and is updating like literally as we are recording,
Mm-hmm.
and there may be more news about the Eula paddle or whatever. But it's just it's so rapid, right? And it was been difficult for me to cover everything by myself across Canada.
Mm-hmm.
And at a
Yeah.
certain point, I went,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
didn't want to make this a full time job, right?
Yeah. Yeah. That's the same here, right? I've kind of got my own little consulting thing on the side, like or like that. Like that is my bringing in my income, so I'm just kind of
Right.
following this as a passion project, and uh, but there's. But yeah, it was actually that's kind of like my path here was like why I kind of stepped away from the CPA was like it was getting so much there was so much politics involved that it was becoming a full-time job, um, and I just didn't I've been in those situations. I've been in worse situations in my professional life. I saw where this is going, and I was like at this point I'm like I just need to separate myself from that. And they've got a cool vision, but like execution wise I we'll see what happens.
Well, we'll see where yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, they haven't started now. They start up in June, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So we'll see how it goes. Wish them best of luck anyway. Um, A little bit of other paddle news before we sign off. I don't know how long we've been on, by the way, about a half hour.
34 minutes, yeah, 35.
Okay, that's fine. A couple other paddle things. We do have Selkirk is releasing a new paddle on Monday, and I have played it.
Hmm.
I
Hmm.
can't show it on camera right now, but because it's under what's called embargo. In other words, you can't share a lot. But that paddle is called the Selkirk Amped Pro Air. I
Hmm.
guess I'm allowed to talk about it. And effectively, anybody who has the Selkirk Pro Air, maybe whatever size, Invicto or whatever, that's a fairly hard paddle. It's
Yeah,
one
yeah,
that, for instance, Catherine Parento uses one.
yeah,
A lot of pros that are sponsored by Selkirk use that paddle.
yeah.
But then they came out with last year one that I really liked called the Selkirk Lux. Again, I'm not into getting a lot more power. I was into helping me with my resets, drops, things like that. Something a little softer because I was overhitting the ball a lot.
Yeah. Yep.
And that Selkirk Lux was one I really liked. Now I
Hmm.
used it not all the time. I also used my 6-0 paddle, the Ruby,
Hmm.
but the Lux I found really good, but it is soft. And as I've been getting a little bit better with a little bit more control, I put the emphasis on a little bit. I thought maybe I could get something a little less cushy than the Lux. Well, I guess Selkirk's decided that people want that something in between.
Hmm.
You know,
Yeah.
too
And
soft,
well,
too
you
hard,
s- you
just right.
saw it you saw it with Jack Sock, right? When he came in, he
Yeah.
was kind of poster boy for the Lux,
Yep.
but then sure enough,
Yep.
kind of singles rolls
Um,
around. He brings out
did
the
you cut out
power
there?
air. He realizes he can generate. Oh, generate. I think.
There you go. Got you in,
Yeah,
back in now.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So he
So
comes in.
Jack was playing the Lux to start with,
Yeah,
and then he was the first one to play this new Amped Pro Air.
correct. Oh yeah, well,
Right.
but he went to the original power air and then pro air, I think, from what I saw. Um,
Oh, and then while he was playing Lux at one point,
yeah,
a blue one. But the last 2 weekends, at least, he's been playing this new one, the
yeah,
amped.
yeah.
Now there's a Pro Air coming out that looks similar as well, an updated color scheme of it that's gray. He's been playing gray paddle, but I will say the amped Pro Air comes in gray, and that actually is the one that I have here.
Mhm.
I love it. It is a blend of the two. It is more powerful than the Lux, not as hard as the Pro Air. So I'm pretty happy with it. I'll do a lot more extensive review about it in the next week when the embargo is on. I have a couple shapes and I can show those next week.
Yeah.
I don't sell them, but I can share my thoughts on it. That's about it, right? Um, Another couple of things, and we won't get into paddles too much, but if you've ever watched the Pickleball Studio podcast, there's a guy on there that goes by the name Pickleball Will. You've watched that, right, John?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I saw him in PPA Seattle too. I saw
Yeah,
Pickleball Will.
he seems like I've not met him personally.
Yeah.
Seems like a very nice guy.
Mm.
Um, anyway, he in the Pickleball Studio sold a lot of 6-0 paddles, as have I. And
Mm. So you're saying we need the Patrick Batty. I'll beat you to the match, but we need a
I'm
Patrick
not
Batty.
there yet. Think of 10%. Think of 10% of them. But I was in the top 10 affiliates
Mm.
of them, to the point that they're sending me one of the Pickleball Will paddles,
Mm. Hmm.
which Amazon is literally. I was hoping it'd be here today because I could show that one,
Yeah.
but it's called the Triple Black Diamond. So their Black
Mm.
Diamond was their big seller.
Yeah.
The Ruby was a big seller. They've had a few others. The Triple Black Diamond is slightly different shape that gets a little wider at the head, and it has a much longer handle, which is really nice for a two-hand backhand.
Mm.
And
Hmm.
I do try to use a two-handed backhand, but it's a little tricky on some of the paddles that I use.
Hmm.
So that paddle is called the Triple Black Diamond, and the special edition collaboration with Will is called the Willinator. so so that's just a special edition. They will have a production model that is just the Triple Black Diamond. The Willinator comes out this weekend, just like every new release with 6-0 and every restock tends to come out on the weekends. I believe the Willinator will not be available in retail stores, but I'll leave a link below for it. But it will only come out at 6 o'clock on Sunday, 6 p.m. Eastern time.
Eastern? Okay.
And what I've noticed in the past is it usually opens up about 10 minutes before.
Oh,
So if
okay.
anybody really wants to get one, at least
Mm.
go there about 10 to, and you'll see when the order window opens for
Yeah,
it.
yeah. I'm
Because
sure.
they
I was gonna
sell out
say.
like crazy.
I'm sure if you keep an eye on, if you join the Pickleball Studio Discord, right, they're usually pretty
Well,
good with
we
the.
have it. We send out an email to our subscribers.
Oh, okay, there you go. So
By
subscribe to
using the
Pickleball today.
code pickle, yeah, by using the code pickleball today, you get 10% off and free shipping to Canada. There will be some duty involved, but the brokerage fees, which usually are expensive, are pretty much covered by 6-0 as well as the shipping fee. So it's almost like just paying regular retail when it comes right down to it. If you
Nice.
bought it in Canada. Also, the Ruby, which has been tough to get, is also in stock again. So that
Okay.
may be in stock now. It was when I looked this morning. And then again, every time that comes up, it's sold out in 5 or 6 minutes.
Hmm.
So I have no idea how many paddles they get, but
Mm.
I'll send out an email and all of a sudden there's a flow of messages that somebody bought one and it'll last for about 6 minutes and then it stops.
Oh
Why it
wow.
stops
Yeah.
is because they're out of stock already. So
Is
that's in
there
stock
a
now.
is there a big secondary market for this? Like as you know, as a just like putting my business school hat on, like you think about like Taylor Swift tickets or something, like a massive secondary market. There's money left on the table. It sounds like. Yeah.
There has been for the I've never done it, but there has been for the Ruby.
Yeah.
I talked to a
Maybe there's
player
yeah.
at court yesterday at the club that I play at, and he asked me about the Wilner. He said, "When's it gone?" He says, "I want to buy a few because when the Ruby came out, I bought a few and I sold them, and I was able to
Yeah,
sell
yeah.
them for a bit more money." Um, so I'm not doing it. I don't want to help
No, I know. Yeah.
help
It's just like
cause the
what's the
stock issue.
yeah, what's the
Yeah, I don't
marginal
want to help
benefit from
cause
that?
the lack of stock. However, um, I'll be playing it as of tonight,
Mhm.
and I'll be putting an email along. In fact, along with the podcast here, and as along with the discount code, and same with the Ruby. I mean, the Ruby's there, but yeah, he made some money on reselling them.
Mm.
I'm not encouraging people to do that, but this one, it's almost like this is the one time only special edition for this one. So who knows, right? I mean, stories change depending on
Well,
the
it's yeah.
results, sales, and all that. Who knows, right?
Yeah. Well,
But
remember
there will
the
be a triple black diamond, the same as the Willinator without the Willinator branding. And I don't know if it'll be the identical paddle without that logo, or if there's any other change, weight or anything like that. I'm sure the
yeah, yeah.
shape's the same. So
Yeah.
that's about it
I'll
that
I'll
way.
I'll ask you one so are you bearish or bullish on the Ben Johns Perseus that what was it, $1,000? Or how much was it
Oh,
again?
that was, that's funny. Yeah, when he won 100 events,
Yeah,
they
yeah.
came out with a gold
Yeah, yeah. Yeah.
one
So under
in a
yeah.
like an aluminum, gold colored aluminum case for
Yeah.
$1,000.
Yeah. Under or
Um,
overvalued? What do you think?
I was actually at
I
that
guess it depends
tournament.
on the timeline.
I was at that tournament that weekend when he won it.
Okay.
That was Cincinnati of last year.
Yeah.
And that's
Okay.
a funny coincidence. Let me show you something. He gave this to me at the tournament. Um,
Oh,
and
okay.
obviously signed it. This was the media pass from the tournament.
Nice. Nice.
And so anyway, there's a game worn Ben
Yeah.
Johns hat, and like I was sitting right on
Yeah.
courtside with a media pass, and so I interviewed him, and I interviewed a bunch of other players. But I unfortunately got sick on Sunday, and I couldn't go to the final
Mm.
day.
Hmm.
Um, so I decided, and it was a long drive home. So I decided, and I really felt sick. So I decided to, instead of sitting around in a hotel room being sick, I'd just hop in the car and come on back. So I actually listened to it on PPA TV on my phone
Oh, okay.
as I was
Pickleball.
driving
Yeah.
home. So I
Yeah.
heard the event. I didn't
Yeah.
see the event,
Yeah. Yeah.
but
Yeah. Yola
uh,
did roll out all the stops for that one. Right? They had all the folks out
yeah,
there.
yeah. So they came out. I mean, they were all prepared, right, with a big trophy and this 1,000 or 100 win thing. Now,
Yeah.
Annalie Waters has had her 100th as well now.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, so
It's
I
yeah. The Ben. I don't know what it is about Ben. Like number one, because NLE number one player. Like Ben's the only one who can really move paddles, like move units, really. Uh,
yeah,
I don't think like maybe Tyson, but like Ben
yeah.
Ben. Yeah.
I think Tyson does too. I mean, the Pro VR paddles have sold a lot, as far as I know, too. Um,
Mm,
Paddle Tech really fell behind for a while. I mean, they were a
yeah.
really original kind of company,
Yeah.
OG or whatever they call it these
Yeah.
days.
Yeah.
But their new models are pretty hot. What's his name? Alshon.
Oh,
What's his
also yeah,
first name?
Christian. Also yeah.
Chris
Christian.
Alshon's playing one of those. Annalie Waters plays one of those. They've got a lot of power, and they've got a lot of power. So they may move paddles. I mean, I think pros do. That's why the companies
I
wouldn't
don't know.
sign them for a lot of
Well,
money if they don't.
that's my
Um,
hang up though, right? That's my hang up
yeah, yeah,
on
yeah.
pro pickleball is that are people watching pickleball to watch Ben Johns play, or are they watching pickleball just because it's pickleball?
That's a good point. It's to be for a while last year watching uh, Ben Johns, Colin Johns win every tournament, and I really focus on doubles and mixed doubles. Ben
Mm,
John, Collins Johns, Alan Lee Water, and Catherine Parento. No, I like Catherine Parento. She's a lovely woman, and I've
mm,
had a great interview with her. So I'm a big fan of hers.
mm.
And I can't remember who was winning. Well, for a while it was Riley Newman, and no, they weren't. They were losing in men's to the Johns brothers. Who and who in mixed doubles was dominating though? I'm trying to remember. Oh,
Uh,
uh, Ben Johnson,
Ben,
Annalie
yeah,
Waters.
Annalie
Yeah.
Waters. Yeah,
So
yeah,
tuning in every week, watching a whole tournament, getting down to the same six
yeah,
or eight people was boring. And
yeah,
I enjoyed watching tournaments when Ben wasn't playing, to be honest,
yeah, yeah.
or when Catherine took off, and she took off, and Annalie took off about a month last year, and I think that Catherine just has done her month, but they're back together today
Mm,
and crushing it, by the way.
mm,
And she's playing with Jack Sock again as of yesterday, again crushing it.
mm.
But
Yeah.
it was more exciting to get away from watching the same people win every week. If I wouldn't mind if the Blue Jays won every game, but I probably wouldn't watch every game then. Right now, I'd
Well,
just be
it's
happy if we get a hit.
I don't know,
Um,
but you think of like the Tiger Woods era or the
yeah, yeah, a lot like the Tiger Woods area. And I'll be honest, I was cheering for the underdogs.
yeah,
So,
yeah,
and I usually do cheer for the underdogs unless the favorite is one of my specific players.
yeah,
But the underdogs weren't making much progress last year, and yet
yeah,
they are a bit more this year.
yeah.
John's Ben on his own has been defeated a number of times. The brother combo has Annalie and Catherine at least once. I think maybe just once,
Mm,
and a lot of other players. And we'll talk more about the CNPL players in a couple of weeks too, when people get to see them a bit more.
yeah,
But variety makes it exciting. But the same old every week
mm,
doesn't probably help your audience, and not
yeah.
therefore
Well, yeah,
does Ben help sell a paddle? I believe he helps sell a paddle.
yeah,
Does he help bring in a wider TV audience? I'm not sure.
yeah, and
You know,
that's where I think maybe you have to rethink the tour format, right? Maybe it's not billed as a spectator sport in a way. It's maybe
yeah,
there's another because as I was talking through the CPA Pro Tour, the as I was working on that and just talking to more pickleball insiders, the more the more deep into it I got, the more bearish I people were on spectator sports. Right? I think we're right
Yeah,
now. It's I think the next couple of years are going to be determine really how things go because you have people showing up on Sports Center top 10, right? You have and
yep,
if that on its own is not a catalyst for pickleball as a spectator sport, what will be? Like what can
yeah.
you do? Like Christian I think has been doing great, has been generating great press, with his tweets and
He
stuff.
stirred up a pile. Yeah.
But again,
That's a
yeah,
really good point.
yeah.
Um, I think as the game gets younger,
Mm,
still, and as we get through, the next few years where kids are coming out of high school that have been playing for a few years, colleges, college teams, all that, which, there are about 200 of them now in the United States. I don't know how many in Canada, but 200 college teams. They're not doing scholarships. I think only like one school is. So,
mm.
but I just think it will
I
get. I mean, it
know,
is an
yeah.
exciting sport to watch.
Yeah, I'll give a shout
But
out to somebody who's at Cornell University, Len. I think his last name's Len Yang, but I had dinner with him when I was going down. So he partnered up with Christina Chin for one of their tournaments down in New Jersey, and then I was kind of thinking, oh, it'd be great to have an intern, maybe this smart kid for the kids in I think the Dyson School or something, and for it'd be great to have an intern for this. And I was like, oh, Christina, what do you think he's gonna go? It's like, oh, he's probably gonna be working at McKinsey or something. I go down to Ithaca and have dinner with him. I'm like, what are you doing for the summer? He says, I'm working at City Pickle, and I'm like, like in the
oh,
business. On the business side, he's like, no, I'm coaching. Like, and like
all right.
that's all he's doing. So it's like Cornell's my backup. I am going all in on pickleball. I see him posting on Instagram. He's doing like 6 hour, 8 hour days of just drilling.
Wow.
So he's one to watch, I'll say.
City
And he
Pickle. You're talking about the one right in Central Park.
exactly, yeah. And they're
Yeah, nice.
the two founders there are pretty smart as well. But I'll say that yeah,
We
Len wants to
we should get them on someday.
yeah. I'll say
Also,
Len
you
wants.
mentioned Christina.
Mhm,
Christina Chen is one of the. She's a wonderful. I'd love to have her on the podcast one of
yeah,
these days as well.
yeah.
She's such a vibrant woman and a
Mm,
great player, and we'll
yeah,
come up with our list shortly.
yeah, for sure.
Anyway, I think we've covered
Yeah,
a good gamut here. No false
yeah,
steps that I'm aware of, which
yeah.
is good. That means no big editing.
I'll do one
I
last.
didn't drop any f bombs. I will someday.
Yeah,
I
I'll
did
do
yesterday
one.
on one of my shots. I'm not supposed to,
Mhm.
but I've been
Oh
known
well,
to.
well actually that brings up we should actually do a collaboration with the Dink because they are partnered with Stop Alzheimer's now as like the swear
Yeah,
jar, so that would be a
I would
good
like to. I would like to do that with Alzheimer's Canada because I've been the
yeah.
beneficiary of a lot of training with them over the last number of years,
Hmm.
and we can work that out.
Yeah, and
That'd be easy.
I'll do one more plug for Melanoma Canada. They're running. They're the reason I'm here at One Health today. We're kind of doing a facility walkthrough for their upcoming event for Rock the Pickle or Smash Out Skin Cancer, Rock the Pickle. Those are a couple, two or three pickleball events coming up across Canada, Mississauga, Muskoka, Vancouver, all
If
supportive.
you just bear with me for a second as you talk about that, I'm going to pull up the upcoming tournaments here,
Yeah,
the
yeah,
major ones coming up in Canada. One second, you just
yeah.
keep going there
But
for
yeah,
me.
yeah, they're all in support of Melanoma Canada. They're bringing celebrities such as like Billy Baldwin, his wife, and I went to the first event in Montreal. It wasn't in a pickleball dedicated facility, but it was still really fun time. Great auction format. We had John O'Hurley show up from Seinfeld. So yeah, they definitely the team behind that Solutions with Impact definitely put on a great event, and highly suggest you guys sign up, especially in
Right,
Muskoka. I'm planning to put together a team there. That's going to be that's going to be at multiple cottages, so they're kind of like cottage hopping, playing
nice.
pickleball. So yeah.
There's worse places to go play. I'm having a
Oh yeah.
hard time getting Canada to show up right now in
Mm.
pickleball brackets. Give me one more second. Oh, there we
Yeah.
go.
I
It's not
know.
listed in. the alphabetical order, unfortunately.
Uh, I know what after so CNPL's next weekend. That's like Saturday, Sunday, right? And then we've got CPA on June 5th to 9th. That's going to be their first tournament there. And then yeah, I guess it's really getting into the busy season. I think they're
Right.
actually. I'm going to be doing one tournament. The APA is they have one in Aurora. I think I can't remember what it's called, but that's going to be my first one since the last one I did was in Seattle, the Seattle Metro, which is a great tournament.
Nice.
So yeah, looking forward
Well, I would
to.
hope to get this up, but for some reason I'm putting in Canada and yet it won't refresh and come up. Give me one more second.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry for that.
Oh,
Answer. Oh, here we go. So just a note of what's going on. This is in no particular order. This weekend there's the Ottawa Open in Ottawa. Let's see here. We have a tournament in Courcelette, Quebec, called the Championnat Provincial Marcel Lemieux. Oh, Marcel
oh,
Lemieux. Okay. Windsor Christian Pickleball this weekend. Let's see, London Pickleball Club Tournament next weekend. Pickleball Nova Scotia next weekend. Uh, uh, the Rally in the Valley, that would be, that's Deep River. Let me get some other ones along here. Pickleball Manitoba on the weekend of the 31st. That's my birthday, so it's good.
oh, there we go.
I'm just going to hit some bigger ones along the way. 31st as well is something called the Dash and Smash. You got to love
Mm,
some of these names. Tecumseh is a really good club. I stopped in there last year, June
mm,
6th, their annual international tournament. That's players generally from Canada and US, but also around the board. Tecumseh is just across from Detroit, beside
mm.
Windsor.
Oh yeah, yeah,
Kamloops, June 7th.
yeah. There's a
Kamloops, June
whole.
7th. Saskatchewan, June 7th. So it's a busy season. We'll get into more in coming weeks. I can see it all over Alberta, Calgary, uh, St. Albert, another good club. Parkland's Pickleball in Alberta as well. A lot of these clubs, by the way, and speaking of, were clubs that were nominated and received a lot of votes for Canada's best pickleball club last year. And it jogged my memory again to mention that we will be doing that again this year. We had thousands and thousands of votes, tens of thousands of page views, and that was won by the Vernon Pickleball Club in Vernon, BC. We had great finalists across the board, literally from across the country. Great nominations. Nominations went from, excuse me, take a sip of water. Nominations went from St. John, Nova Scotia, or St. John, Newfoundland, pardon me, right out to Victoria. So we had them right, and one from the Yukon.
Oh
So
wow.
nominations were all over the country.
Mm.
And I expect the same this year. So we'll come out with more news about that shortly. With that said, I guess we've covered about everything we could in one episode. It was kind of a jam-packed one.
Yeah,
A lot of fun. Not bad for a first effort.
yeah,
I don't think I'll edit anything. We'll just let it fly the way it is.
yeah. Let's do it. Let's do it.
We didn't. I don't think we. I'll probably find out we misspoke after we upload it, and people tell me the mistakes I
That's all
made.
right.
But that's
Well,
fine. That's
move
fine.
fast, move
For
fast, and break things, right?
Yeah, that's right. So for those of you that do volunteer with local clubs, great. If you volunteer with your provincial association, great. If you volunteer with Pickleball Canada or at any tournament, great. I mean, this whole sport is based on a lot of volunteer work. If you're a referee, oh my God, thank you very much. So we're having fun here. We'll be doing this every week. This will be out today, so we may not do until late next week or possibly on Monday of the week after.
Dang, Patrick, you're setting us up for your jam-packed schedule, huh? Every week. We're gonna,
Well, yeah, what the heck? You know
yeah,
what?
let's do it. Let's
We've
do
got an
it.
hour there.
Let's do
You
it.
know what? We would be talking about this anyway. We might as well record it.
It's true.
You
It's
know,
true.
we might as well record it, and I think that's fair. There's a lot of room here. There's room for a third podcast in Canada.
Yep.
Um, I find this easier than writing a ton, even
Yep,
though I
yep.
do write a lot. But after what quite frankly, putting it on a website is fairly labor intensive for every
Oh, for sure.
longer post.
Yeah,
Uh, and we will still do. I'm committed to at least one new article a week. Maybe I can get you to do one,
yeah,
and then we've got that covered as well. So
yeah.
I could see one about this whole Gen 3 thing. Oh, now that things have shaken out a little bit. But anyway, that's it, folks. Thank you for joining us, Jonathan. Thank you for joining me. I'll see you probably next weekend.
Yeah,
Maybe we
sounds good.
record
Actually,
live.
we'll meet in. Oh, actually, oh no, we did meet in person at Four Fathers, but yeah, we'll see each
Yes,
other
we
again in
did.
person. Yeah.
We did. We did. And
All
if it's
right.
in person and after the games, a beer is in order.
Yeah, let's do it.
As you can tell from me, a beer is generally in order. Although I vow not to do them
Oh,
on camera. So, hey, we'll
there we
see you
go.
soon. Thank you, folks, for joining us. I appreciate it, and I hope you enjoy our episode. Take care.
Thank you, Patrick. Cool. Yeah. I think that went. Yeah, that felt good.
Well, well, trying to end session here, and it's not letting me. Now I got to edit.
Oh,
There we go.
oh, yeah, you got the yeah. Oh, with Jonas or okay.